Good evening, Broncos fans. You are watching the Orange and Blue View, and we just got to see real football, real live football yesterday. It was preseason, but it's still football, and that's always great. Ron, what do you think? I mean, we got to see football for the first time in months.
Yes, I love it. I'm glad that we were able to see real life football game action. There's a lot to get into with what happened, how it all went down, some of the good, some of the bad, some of the ugly.
Yeah,
So we could
for
definitely
sure.
be getting into that, but it is just so exciting. It's so good now that football season is now upon us that we can just look at live games and kind of break it down. And hope you
Yeah,
guys enjoyed the game as well.
like we're going to be talking about some players we liked and that really kind of hurt themselves. I saw plenty, but I've got three, and I know you have three that we really want to talk about. I know mine are those players that they had to have a good showing because they're those players that are on the bubble, man. They're fighting for the roster lives, so to speak. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to get into any of the other players. If you guys out there in the chat have some players you want us to talk about that we saw from our perspective, throw it in the chat. We'll see if we can hit it up and chat about it. But I'm going to grab a couple people that were in here early, especially David McGilrath coming in right away before the show started, giving us some love. Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate it. Good evening, Broncos country. Tom, Ron, Dylan, and Deacon Scotty says 12-5, Mile High Huddle for life, Buckham times 3, Denver Broncos for life. And wise words, remember, it's just preseason. Thank you
Yes.
for that, David. I appreciate the support. So does Ron. We're glad that you're here. We're going to try to remember that it was just preseason. But for me, preseason isn't necessarily about how the team, I guess, puts a play out there, right? Like I saw last night, Ron, where the Cardinals were sending all out blitzes and stuff, which was a
Mhm.
big surprise in preseason. I usually see vanilla stuff, but for me, I prefer to look at individual players and see how they've done because that to me is important piece because they're trying to fill out a roster. Yes, the starters played and they need to get some rhythm and everything like that, and we'll get into that. But we have a lot of thoughts about players, so thank you for that. And I'll just point out one more thing in case people didn't realize this: 12-5, 7 of the last 10 AFC West winners did it with 12 games or more. So if you if you can hit 12 games, you're probably going to win the division. So
Yes,
just throwing that
definitely.
out there. 12 games has won the division 7 or less. I guess I should say 7 out of the 10 times.
Yes. Thank you, David, for coming in. We appreciate you, my man. And yeah, I just want to emphasize that last sentence you have. Remember, it's just preseason. And you're absolutely correct. It is just the preseason, guys. I know, it was a loss only by a point, but this preseason period obviously is to get an evaluation on the players.
Yeah.
The starters need their reps, as Tommen pointed out. They need to kind of build back up, get into football shape, get real live game action under their belt, and the preseason is there for them to do that. But the main focus is just evaluate these players, these new draft picks, these players that have gone undrafted, see who was on the bubble, who maybe can, vie for that 53-man roster. So, again, we did see some good, some bad throughout last night, and some probably did definitely going to make this 53-man roster from what we saw.
Yeah.
And so there are a few. I think Thomas and I share, Raina. There are a few that we
Sure.
had on our
Sure.
list that we had some of the same names on our list. I'm going to say,
Yeah.
but it was a very good showing for some of them.
I'm just going to give a shout out to Dylan Von Arks, one of our own coming in. Thank you for being here on Saturday night. A regular coming in, helping us out, saying, "Sup, Broncos country." Make sure you hit the like button on the way in, share on all platforms, and subscribe if you haven't already. So please do that. It's wise words from one of the Mile High Huddle staffers. And with David Youngkin coming in right away this morning, saying, "I know there were injured players, but that offensive line still needs a lot of work." And we were just talking that Ron and I were just kind of talking about that before we jumped on about the offensive line. And, it looked rough. But the one thing that you have to remember, and I'm not going to make any excuses, like individually, Bowles and Powers and Isaiah Prince did not look very good, who's filling in for McGlinchey. But remember, it takes a little while for the offensive line to kind of gel, right? McGlinchey was out for personal reasons, came back. Bowles has been in and out at camp, not playing a whole lot because they're, taking it easy, bringing him back from that injury. And now McGlinchey's hurt again. So it would be nice to see them all together for an extended period of time before we can really get that real evaluation. But the injuries are impacting that play. And I'll tell you, Isaiah Prince to me on that line was one of the people that did not help themselves out at all yesterday. That, especially when you got, and I know I've been talking about Alex Pilcheski for months. He came in and looked better, and it was against a lower level competition. So, you got to take it with a grain of salt. But Isaiah Prince was one of those on my list that I wrote about a Mile High Huddle that did not help himself out.
Yes, thank you, David, for coming in. And yeah, Isaiah Prince was downright bad. He did not help his case at all for making this for this team. But you're right. It does take a while for the line to gel with McGlinchey being out, Garrett Bowles, which actually he's on my list, coming back from that injury. It wasn't a good showing. But I think once we can, once they have more time to gel, they understand the scheme a little bit more. I think it'll start to turn. But we saw some plays, Thomas, that that just were downright bad, especially from Bowles. Giving up that sack, right? He allowed that outside linebacker, I think it's Gardak from the Cardinals, on a sack with Wilson for 7 yards. In the second quarter, he allowed that QB hit that forced Russ to throw the ball away, right? So these are things. Again, I'm not making excuses because I know Bowles had come back from the injury, but these are things that Bowles, someone with his experience, should be able to do. He struggled a lot in pass protection and in some of the run blocking as well. But again, hopefully with McGlinchey coming back from injury, and then hopefully if Ben Powers starts to, because Ben Powers didn't play well yesterday either. Once they start to gel, then you should hopefully see a much improved line. But yeah, good point there, Roy.
Absolutely. So I want to give a shout out to Roy for being here. Thank you for coming in, saying I love my Broncos, but we didn't look well at all. Yeah. And there was some mistakes for sure. And we'll get into some of that. But so thanks for coming in, Roy. We got Albert Knoppers coming in, asking a question. Do you think Garcia might make the team? That's somebody I wrote about, Ron, Elijah Garcia, number 95, 2 sacks. He looked pretty good. And I'll say the D-line rotation still has some question marks. I mean, Purcell's still out, so that doesn't help. But there's a roster spot waiting for somebody, and it's an all-out battle. And right now, I think it's a battle that could be had by Elijah Garcia. But the other person that impressed me was number 90, Jackson, Jordan Jackson. I'm confusing Jordan Jackson. Okay, Jordan Jackson, right? He impressed me too. He played a lot of snaps and had a pretty solid game, but it is hard to overlook the 2 sacks that Garcia got. What are your thoughts on his performance?
Oh yeah, Garcia did a great job. He was one of my. He didn't make my list on the top 3, but he was actually one of my notable mentions for his stock up. He really did help himself in the case. And Albert, if he continues to shine or show like this for the few games, he definitely has a case to make the team. So yeah, that was one that stood out as a notable mention. Jackson as well, as you mentioned, Thomas did too. On the D line, Henningsen actually did okay. I did see some good things as well. Just from a development perspective, I saw some promise. So I would say, Garcia, if he continues to build upon those sacks throughout the season, we can definitely see him probably making this team, Albert, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's funny. I immediately saw number 90 drop into coverage on one play. Right, he kind of dropped into coverage, and I mean, you don't really want your D lineman back in coverage too often, but he didn't look too bad. I mean, it was an interesting thing. But yeah, I was impressed with both of them. I mean, it's tough for these guys to crack the starting lineup. Don't get me wrong; they play well. They show up in preseason, but sometimes it's still they still don't make the team. So we won't know, but he definitely helped himself out. I'm going to grab this super chat from Michael Davis. Thank you so much for the support. Really appreciate it. Saying aloha, gents. Did Jaleel earn a shot to play with the twos? I'd love to see what he can do. Maui strong. Aloha, Lahaina. Yes, all our thoughts are going to go out to those in Maui with the wildfires. It's just devastating. So yeah, thank you for reminding us of that. And hopefully, any family members or any people that are out there, everybody can, safe and healthy and hopefully that's rebuilt quickly. But yeah, Jaleel McLaughlin, right? They spelled his name wrong on his nameplate with a G. I mean, it happens. I'll tell you that Jaleel, from what I saw in camp and other people that I talked to that have been there at training camp, Jaleel McLaughlin was the third best running back. And I know Beatty got a lot of running time. I don't know why they're pushing him so far down the depth chart, but from what we saw on the field in training camp, third best running back. Now, maybe it's special teams type of thing, but they both had very small amount of special teams snaps, both Beatty and McLaughlin. So I don't think it's that. Something else is going on. Maybe he's not doing well blocking, pass blocking, something. He is down the depth chart. Not sure why. If they're going to try to sneak him onto the practice squad, they're going to lose him on waivers. He's been that impressive. So if they're trying to, keep him hidden, and people know what he's done, and he came out last night and showed that he was the most productive running back.
Yes.
I mean, he didn't get a lot of carries, but he got the most out of it, right? A touchdown, 5 yards per carry. He went out there and performed.
Yes. Thank you, Michael. And I don't really have much else to say in the sense that I'm a big McLaughlin fan, and what I saw yesterday, in my mind, he was just RB3.
Yeah.
The shiftiness, the quickness, his running ability, his running style, it was all on display. And you're right, averaging about 5 to 6 yards a carry. That's something the Broncos could definitely use.
Yeah.
So, I understand that the need to maybe play Beatty as well. But I just think when you see McLaughlin, the tape screams out that he's explosive. And you're right, it could be blocking, Thomas. I don't know, what's the kind of what's the rationale there, but the talent is there, so.
I'll tell you, the other person that put the stamp on his 53, his name on that 53-man roster yesterday was started with an M as well. McMillan, cornerback.
Yeah.
He has been a star in training camp, and I use star as a term kind of loosely. He's played very, very well in training camp, right? And he came out and he just lit it up out there for a guy who's fighting to make the roster. He couldn't have done any better. He played incredibly well. I mean, I've got notes of him also, special teams, kickoff coverage tackles, a couple times, which is super important for people that are on that roster bubble trying to make the team. Was in on those coverages, and then he was down in position to down a punt inside the 5, and the punt just kind of just missed a little bit, but he was there ready. I mean, this guy's hustling. This guy's playing special teams, and he looked pretty darn good in coverage as well. So I think he kind of stamped his name on that roster after that preseason game. I think they've seen enough.
Yes, he stood out to me for sure. I think I think he's going to make that 53.
Yeah. We got George Fox coming in with Facebook Star, so thank you very much. I just want to remind everybody, we're here. We don't have anybody in the background. So if we miss a Facebook star, I've got my computer here. I'm trying to keep track of them, but just let me know if you guys threw one in there and I didn't see it, and I'll try and keep up with it. But just want to say thank you for it. George is coming in saying we made a mistake when we got rid of McManus. Denver Broncos for life, Mile Huddle for life. Yeah, I mean, it was a poor showing from the kickers, and I'm with you. It seems like a bad decision at this point, but I don't know. McManus wasn't doing great last season, so I mean, I don't know. I hope that one of these kickers, comes out and rectifies the situation in the next preseason game. But yeah, it looked ugly. And I hope it doesn't come back to bite the team.
Thank you, George. And this was one of my. I was going to put it in the studs and duds, but the whole kicking game in general it was horrible, George. Yes, you're right. I wouldn't say a mistake. Well, let me take that back. I wouldn't say a mistake necessarily of getting rid of McManus, because we did see McManus start to, kind of fall off in the more recent years. And of course, it was a cost savings to the Broncos to get rid of him as well. So they had their reasons to do so. But if you were to give me a choice last night between McManus and these current kickers, Fry or Maher, then I would definitely choose McManus. Yeah. But I hope that they can improve upon the kicking game. I'm just kind of saying this more as just the one-off. One got blocked, so you kind of have to look at all the factors there. But I hope one of them can come out of this preseason, because what I guess what are the other options, right? To sign someone else, right? I don't know what they have. So I just hope one can can make these kicks as we need them. So
yeah. We got Gary Palmer, the legend, coming in with a generous super chat. So thank you so much for the support. As always, Gary, we appreciate you're here, whether you support us or not. So thank you so much. Gary says, hey, Thomas and Ron, I think a lot of fans saw the first series and thought, here we go again. Wasn't the O-line the seconds and thirds? Go Broncos and Buckham. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, you can't read a lot into preseason, right? This is... like I said early in the show, look at the players, evaluate that, evaluate some execution and things like that, but it's going to be rusty. Things are going to, aren't going to be perfect in there. So absolutely. But you're right. The offensive line was shaky, but they were without one of their starters, right? Yeah. McGlinchey wasn't on that side. And frankly, Garrett Bowles is still working his way back in. He's been hit or miss in camp. So he's going to have to make some strides. The one that concerned me the most, though, Ron and Gary, Ben Powers, the big name signing that I was jazzed about, did not have a very good game. Cushenberry and Miners looked pretty good. They were fine. Isaiah Prince had a bad game. Bowles had a bad game. Ben Powers was the big surprise to me. He did not look very good. And it could, I don't know why. I mean, he's not injured. He's a good player. Hopefully he can bounce back.
Yeah. Thank you, Gary, for coming. We always appreciate you, my man. And that was my first thought as well of this season again. Here we go again. But the O-line, you have to put the O-line into some context. And Bowles coming back from that leg injury, and then McGlinchey was out. And of course you had Isaiah Prince, who was backup. So with that in mind, it's not going to be the O-line that we did. But you're right, Thomas, in the fact that Ben Powers was a big surprise in this game. I was expecting, very good run blocking skills. I just did not see, that come to the field. So I hope as the team starts to gel and as we start to get, players healthy, i.e. Bowles, McGlinchey back, that this offensive line can kind of take shape, because it was very rusty in run blocking and pass protection, guys. I'm going to be very honest. It was not a good showing. It was not good a showing at all. So hopefully, with these pieces coming back, that they can start to look better.
That's right. We got Lawrence Rivera coming in. Good to see you, Lawrence. Thanks for dropping by, saying what up, guys. Just like we say, win is a win. Well, a loss is a loss, even though it's preseason. I mean, we could have had joint practice so we could know what was slacking or lacking. Yeah, it would have been nice to have some joint practices to kind of to go into this preseason game. Hopefully the next two will come out a little bit better execution. I thought they kind of righted the ship a little bit on offense. And I know the whole thing is, well, it was against their second and third teamers. Yeah, you know what? All these guys can play football, right? These second teamers are going to be counted on to play football. And they actually, the offense, even with their poor execution, it was the missed field goal. I mean, they could have had, they could have had more points they left on the field. But, there's some things to work out for sure. Thanks for coming in, Lawrence. And then we got Derek Baird coming in with a super chat. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate your generosity. And he's saying, wonder if the Broncos will have the stones to go with DiNucci over Stidham. Now, I'm going to let you jump in there because I actually wrote about Stidham. And in the standouts, I'll let you jump in there first.
Yeah, that's a good comment, Derek. Thank you. Because Stidham was downright horrible. It was not good. I think it was 5-10, and that pick, that horrendous pick. So he just looked like he didn't know what he was doing, Derek and Thomas, at all. Like, he looked very flustered in the pocket. There were times where he would tuck the ball and run. Okay, that's great. But I guess the wherewithal of, kind of knowing specific sets and where receivers are and getting the ball out, I just didn't see that at all. I feel as though a lot of things from him were forced, and he didn't make the proper reads, right? Holding on the ball too long, getting sacked. So it was just, it was just not a good showing for Stidham at all. And God help us if Russell Wilson goes down. We definitely don't want him there. And you're right. I think DiNucci did look better for sure than Stidham. But yeah, I Stidham was just, he's definitely on my duds. And he's way down there on my duds list for sure. He just did not put on a good show at all.
The problem with the question, and not that you asked this question or anything, the problem that they're going to have is they paid Stidham quite a bit of money to be the backup.
Yeah,
that's a big dead cap hit.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I thought both of them looked pretty bad in camp to start out. DiNucci started to look a lot better, and Stidham continued to look bad, carried that into this preseason. I mean, he threw it right into the hands of the defensive line a couple of times, like just right to have them knock it down. Like the simplest play that could be made, it seemed like, from my perspective, right? He did not look good. Stidham did not look good. I would take DiNucci over Stidham right now and take the dead cap hit. And I said that on Twitter. I said I'd take it. And because it's not because of this preseason game, Derek, like this, I was at camp watching it. There was other people at camp that I talked to. They saw the same thing. Stidham has not looked good, and DiNucci has actually gotten better, and Stidham hasn't. And that's that's the bottom line. And will they actually take that dead cap hit, or will they keep 3? That's the problem that I have with it, right? The problem I have with it is Stidham is carrying a lot of money. So if they want to keep DiNucci because he's actually a little bit better and they decide to keep 3, that means someone else is going to get cut.
Yeah.
That they probably could have kept. Somebody maybe from the safety position, somebody from the wide receiver position, there maybe even someone from the running back that they really want to hold on to, that they're going to let go. And that's the problem I have with it. If they're going to look at it money wise, you got to make the best decision for the roster. And right now, Stidham is not it.
Not it. Yeah.
Got Gina coming in. Gina Cooper saying, come in with Facebook stars. So thank you for the support with the Facebook stars, saying, hope everyone is enjoying the weekend, which I am. And I think, Ron, you are as well. Close preseason game and plenty of takeaways to learn from, most definitely. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to learn. I mean, there's always something to learn, but this is the problem that I'm going to go away from just players for a second. I'm going to talk about the defense. This is a problem that I had with the defense, right? They couldn't make a play when it mattered.
Yep.
And that is going to be vitally important. You heard me talk about this, Ron, about 2 months ago or a month ago when we were talking about Vance Joseph. And I said, Vance Joseph doesn't have to have a top 10 defense. He can have success if he has a defense that's, top 15, say, but the players are in the position to succeed and make a play when it matters most. When that offense of the opposing team is driving down, wanting to score, to to win the game, the defense has to step up. There's got to be a player that steps up and makes a play. Now, I know that these were backups. Some of them aren't going to be on the team. Tremon Smith is not. Tremon Smith was a acquisition that was brought in that was supposed to be probably the fourth cornerback, and it was on my list. He's on my list. He did a terrible job. It's a mentality. It's an execution. It's putting players in the right place to succeed, and that didn't happen. The team marched down, scored a touchdown, and then scored a 2-point conversion to win. That needs to be fixed if Vance Joseph is going to be successful as a defensive coordinator. That's what my takeaway is. And I think they need to, I think you'll see more when the starters are in, right?
Yeah.
When the starters are in, but there's gonna be times when the starters aren't in that they need to make a play. Someone gets hurt or whatever, that someone needs to step up. And for me, that's the one that the one knock that I had really against the defense overall.
Yeah. Thank you, Gina, for coming in. There are plenty of takeaways from this game in all phases, offense, defense, and special teams. You're right, Thomas, and we were talking about it prior to the show starting, in the sense that, in my mind, the tackling can be cleaned up a lot. That there were a lot of plays where the guys for the Cardinals were just running wild. So that's and again, I understand, guys, it's the backups, right? Second and third strings, I get that, but that's still a point of emphasis that has to be heard throughout the locker room. So definitely keep up that tackling. And yeah, you're right, making that clutch play when it matters. We saw the same Bassey. I mean, it wasn't, I think it was like early in the game. I think the receiver slipped, made that interception of Tune. So things like that. We need more of those takeaways, those interceptions, to really, come up in the clutch so that the Broncos can stack these wins. Again, hopefully the talent's there, as we know. Hopefully Vance Joseph can put these players in the best position to do that.
That's right.
And the kicking, I mean, special teams. I would say Montreal Washington, a little better.
He helped himself.
He did help himself out a lot.
Yeah,
he was one of my notable mentions.
Returns.
Yes. He was one of my notable mentions. I was like, I see improvement there for sure. So he did help himself as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Montreal Washington is a player who's going to make it hard for them to cut him, right? Now, going into the season, into this offseason, people, after last season, Montreal Washington was in the doghouse, and he's one of those players that, okay, you cut him, cut him, whatever. He's making it hard. He's playing good at wide receiver in camp, and Mims was out, so Mims didn't do any punt returning. So you gotta kind of weigh that as well. Montreal Washington had a pretty solid game. So if they're going to keep 6 wide receivers, he might be one that they have to really consider at this point, because he has answered the bell, is all I'm going to say. Maybe not as spectacular, but he's definitely came out and answered the bell. So Derek's coming back in with another super chat. So thank you for the support. Really, really appreciate that. Saying Broncos fan invaded Glendale yesterday. Broncos side of same was a sea of orange. Well done, Broncos fans. I know we love to see it, right?
Yes.
That's awesome. I was hoping to get out to that game and see it live, but I wasn't able to do it. But yeah, that's good. I mean, Broncos fans can travel well. I really want them to be a sea of orange at home. Now I've seen a lot of players or a lot of people, in different colors in the stands, not orange and blue. So hopefully this season, with some renewed optimism, some renewed hope, and hopefully some wins, are going to see a lot more orange in the stands. So thank you, Derek, for coming in. Really appreciate that.
Yes. Thank you, Derek. And it's, we always travel well. So it's good to see orange and blue in the stands. And hopefully we see that a lot this year. But my most important thing is let's let these players play well. Let's stack these wins.
That's right.
So that we can bring out more of these fans, right? We definitely need to stack these wins. But yeah, good comment there, Derek. Good to see Broncos fans travel well.
And Billy Ray Valentine's coming in saying, I was shocked by Cushenberry. I thought he was going to be the questionable one on the line, but he played pretty good. Though Ben Powers was getting his you-know-what handed to him. He definitely was. And that's not what you want to see in one of your big free agent signings. Absolutely. I actually was impressed with Cushenberry. Cushenberry is another one of those players, like we just talked about, who's answered the bell. He's given more of a shot than Washington. I mean, obviously, Peyton has come in already kind of looking at Cushenberry as the starter and didn't go out and get anybody, but he's answered the bell just like Washington has. But he's kind of locked in. I don't see him losing that starting role.
Yeah, thank you, Billy Ray Valentine, for coming in. And yeah, I was shocked as well. Cushenberry, I would say, was probably the strongest on the line.
Yeah, yeah, it's
last
true.
night.
Him and Miners were pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that's good to see. And you have to trust Sean Payton and the whole coaching staff. I think we all had our reservations, but I think with these new pieces on the line coming in now, as we mentioned, everybody hasn't played together, so it's kind of hard to get a full evaluation. But some of the new pieces there, along with Zach Strife, I think has helped Cushenberry a lot, because I think you mentioned, Thomas, you saw some improvement in camp as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, yeah, this is very encouraging to see. So I'm excited to see what he does this year for sure.
Yeah. We've got Quentin W. Carson coming in from Facebook asking us question, any ideas of which 3 to 5 wide receivers that will likely stand out in the next 2 preseason games? Well, that's a good question. Obviously, Sutton. I thought Sutton and Judy looked really good. Mims didn't play, so that's we didn't get to really get an evaluation on Mims. My guess, so I don't know what the deal is with Taylor Grimes, right? I saw him out there at camp. He catches everything, runs good routes. He didn't get a lot of playing time, which was a bit of a surprise. And when he did, he played sparingly, but came out and made 2 nice catches. So, I mean, I'm hoping to see that Grimes plays a little bit more. I'm hoping to see Marvin Mims play, because they're being careful with him. But the real question to me, I mean, Brandon Johnson, I think, has got himself a spot on this team if he can get back healthy. He's hurt his ankle, but I think it's Marquez Callaway that has to step up. He has got to show something, because that's another player like Tremon Smith, who came in as an experienced player who was supposed to kind of help solidify that rotation, who is not, he's been passed up on the depth chart. I'm telling you, Callaway is fighting for his roster spot right now, his roster spot live, so to speak. He's one of those that's going to have to stand out to impress. But, I don't know who's going to be the one that stand out next preseason game. Depends on how much they play the starters again. And if they're going to bring some of these, 4th and 5th wide receivers in to play with the starters a little bit. So they're not, not getting passes from Stidham, who hasn't been playing very well.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point there, Thomas. Thank you, Quentin, for coming in. So as far as the top 3 receivers, that's Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, and I guess we can probably pencil in Marvin Mims. I'm going to put them aside. I mean, we kind of expect them to do well and stand out. But for the other ones on the roster, or the backups, I would say Taylor Grimes. He was actually a stud on my list. Now, granted, he didn't have a lot of playing time, as we mentioned, but 2 receptions, 16 yards, I think 3 total targets. But we saw, as you mentioned, Thomas, the shiftiness of the receiver, the route running on display. He catches everything, as they mentioned in camp. He catches everything that comes his way. So he has that ability just to get open. Kind of reminds me of like Wes Welker, Cooper Kupp. So if he can get more playing time, I think he can stand out. Another one is Jalen Virgil. I know he had that one play where they did the shuffle and then he took it upfield.
Yeah, 25 yard gain.
Yeah.
I think if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was a nice play.
Yeah, so it was a nice play. So he's definitely one that can stand out. So yeah, and Marquez Callaway is my 3rd. So I have those 3. Marquez Callaway does have a little more work to do. I know in one of the more recent pressers, Sean Payton mentioned that he's not at the level that he wants him to be at. So he does still have some work to do there. But if, depending on the playing time of the next 2 preseason games, I can definitely see their stock start to rise.
And I'll tell you, Callaway was the Saints' leading receiver in 2021. So it's a bit of a surprise that he's fallen down. I mean, he's taking snaps on special teams now. I mean, he's got to do something to really really change people's perception. So I want to give a shout out again to Gina Cooper here, saying, got my new custom NFL Broncos jersey. So I'm excited and ready for this football season. Broncos country, orange and blue. That's awesome. I mean, I hope you can make it to the games. I hope you can make it to the meet and greet, with the Green Bay Packers. So that'll be a lot of fun. So thanks for stopping in. Appreciate it, Gina. So I just want to go back to Tremon Smith for a minute. I know I've kind of hit on it, but he was someone that I thought was going to be the fourth cornerback. I don't know if he's going to make the team. McMillan is past him. Riley Moss is someone that they really, really like. So you've got Surtain, you've got Mathis, and you got Williams, locks to make the team. McMillan punctuated his spot on the roster, and then you've got Riley Moss. That's five. Five secondary players. And depending on how the safety position shakes out, that might be all they carry. They might carry six. He might make it on the team. But that final drive was terrible. Pass interference on 3rd and 14, gave him a first down. He was playing off coverage.
Yes.
Too far off coverage. They gave him a nice game on that last two, when they're driving down to make that attempt to tie the game or win the game at the final minutes. He gave up a big gain, got him in a better position. I mean, he did have good coverage a couple times, but that final 2 seconds left, they score. That was kind of the end for me when it came to Tremon Smith. He isn't even on kickoff. Like I thought he was going to be the primary kick returner, right? But he isn't even catching any kickoffs. So he's going to have a tough time making this roster. And I'm not sure if you saw the same thing I did, Ron, but it didn't look very good.
Yeah, I saw a lot of the off coverage. I think that's what did it for me. It was just not a good showing at all. And then, like I said, the penalty, it just wasn't good for him. And again, I'm with you. Like what I've heard about McMillan, and then also those few plays I saw in this camp, he's way past Smith. So I think you're right. That's what, 5 corners. So we got Surtain. Yep, Surtain. You mentioned it. Surtain, Mathis, Williams, Moss, and then McMillan. Yeah. So I don't see. And then, like I said, he was brought in to be the returner, so I was expecting that.
Yeah,
and maybe they might use him in the next few games. But I think if he has that ability, that should be a reason why they keep he makes the roster. But I guess it just remains to be seen. So
for sure. We got Phil McLaughlin coming in. Thanks for being here, Phil. Really appreciate it. As always, asking or saying I was pleased to see Benito playing better than last year. Absolutely. Him and Cooper really helps edge depth. Absolutely. And I also think Henningsen looked okay for a second-year player. I think you can hit the nail on the head on all these. Benito looks absolutely better. He looks stronger. He looks like he has worked on his pass rush counters, moves. He's got a better repertoire, and he still looks athletic. Benito, to me, is one of those players that, like Cushenberry, who have improved drastically since last season. So I'm happy with what I saw from Benito in camp and in preseason. Cooper has been playing like a man on fire. His camp has been very good. So yes, I agree with you on both of those counts. Cooper and Benito, great depth. And of course the Broncos need it because, Gregory's always hurt and Browning's hurt right now. So I think, but I will tell you that Haynes, he's number 52 or 59. I can't remember. He's an edge rusher. He's playing a lot on special teams. You may see somebody like Christopher Allen get bumped to practice squad, hopefully. Someone I thought was going to come out and really play well for someone like Haynes, who plays special teams quite well. So you might see that happen now, while they're waiting for for Browning to come back. And Henningsen was one that I actually was going to write about as a winner. But then I was like, well, he's not really one of those bubble players to me. I think they like him a lot. And I think he's has had a pretty good camp and he had a pretty good game. I think he's made the roster. So I left him out as a winner, but you're right on Henningsen as well. I think he played pretty good. When, I saw a couple nice run stops, been able to get really good penetration on a few of those snaps from yesterday night. So yeah, I thought Henningsen looked good. Ron, what do you think?
Yes, thank you, Phil. Yeah, my third player is Nick Bonito. And stock up stud. You are absolutely right, Phil. Notching, he had 3 tackles yesterday, a split sack, QB hit, getting in the backfield. You could actually say he was the best defensive player for the Broncos yesterday. I mean, you can make that case before he went out with the hip injury. So yeah, he's worked on his body. You know, that play where he was charging towards Tune before stopping Clement, the running back Clement, was probably the play of the night for him. And I can see how he's, changing his approach, changing direction to get more upfield. But yeah, I would definitely say Benito has improved dramatically, and I loved what I saw. Cooper, yeah, everyone's been raving about Cooper in camp. He's a wrecking ball, just like Zach Allen. So again, Cooper looks good as well. And yeah, Henningsen, as I mentioned at the top of the show, was one of my my notable mentions because he was able to generate some penetration up front on that D line. And so yeah, that's only encouraging for his development moving forward. But yeah, you're right on the money, Phil, that Benito and Cooper and Henningsen both did help their cases for sure.
I'm still worried about the D-line rotation, though. I really am, and
Yeah.
I've been worried about it for a while. And I'm not going to sit here and say Henningsen played a perfect game for sure, because he there were some mistakes. He played pretty well. He's played pretty well in camp, but I'm still going to be the first one to tell you that they need somebody else with more experience. If Mike Purcell comes back soon, that will help me feel a little bit more comfortable about the defensive line, because then you have Zach Allen. You got DJ Jones, you've got Mike Purcell, and Jonathan Harris has been excellent. He's been playing very well in camp. So you've got those 4, but behind him, I mean, Henningsen, I think, made the team, but there's still a lot of question marks. Lancaster looked okay. They have some young guys, like I said, Garcia and Jackson are fighting for spots. But I would prefer to see them go out and grab somebody that's available, that is experienced, that can fill out that rotation, who doesn't have to be a starter, but can come in and play, significant snaps as a rotational guy. I still think they should do it, but it doesn't look like they're going to at this point. So I still have some concerns about, I guess, about their D-line rotation. Pearl Heater coming in from Facebook. Thank you very much. Saying, what surprise cuts do you think might happen? Ron, I'm going to let you, you got someone in mind? Because I have someone. If you want to think about it for a second, I can jump in.
Well, I don't know if it'll be too much of a surprise, but I'm thinking one of these kickers. It's either going to be Mar or Friday. They're gone.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I think it's Kareem Jackson. I think he's going to be a surprise cut. For a couple reasons. I know he's listed as, kind of interchangeable on the depth chart with Caden Stearns as the starter, but Caden Stearns has been a better player in camp than Kareem Jackson has been. I like his leadership. I like his experience, but at some point you get passed up in the NFL. Once you get a certain age, you just don't play as well. And he hasn't been playing as well. And he hasn't been playing that much. They've been really careful with him getting in and out, in training camp. But my thing is they're going to have to lose some young draftees that they have on their roster in order to keep him on the roster, right? So if he's the 3rd or 4th safety, he's got to play special teams. I don't think he wants to do that. Maybe he does. But that 3rd and 4th safety, they have to be out there on special teams. PJ Locke, Justin Simmons, when I interviewed him with the USAA thing, he spoke about PJ Locke specifically and his special teams prowess. So you got Stearns, you've got Simmons, and then you've got PJ Locke. You've got one more spot. Is it going to be JL Skinner? Is it going to be De'Laren Turner-Yell? Or is it going to be Kareem Jackson? And are they going to keep 5, right? But that 4th guy has to play special teams. I don't know if he wants to. So that's my surprise. I've been saying it all along that he's probably going to be that surprise cut. It's just unfortunate,
Yeah, that's a good one as well. Kareem Jackson over the years that you mentioned it is has just not played well. I mean, in coverage, he's gone from just bad to worse.
Yeah.
He still does have, the ability at times to tackle well, stopping runners and such upfield. But yeah, he's not good. So that's actually a good one. And you're right. I don't think he wants to play special teams at his age. So, but I don't think it would be a surprise because remember, I think I did say that I didn't think he was going to make the team just because of what you mentioned of,
Yeah.
Stearns is already a good talent with Simmons. You have JL Skinner coming. So who do you like? Where's Kareem Jackson going to fit?
Yeah.
And I just look at some of these roles like kind of the same thing with Hamler.
Yeah.
Thomas, like what role do they have? And if the role is not apparent, then they're out. So.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I'll be the first one to say I wasn't impressed with JL Skinner in the preseason game. I don't think he played very well.
Yeah.
He was on a blitz, came in very late, tried to time it, missed it, and then came in really late, opened up center field that they scored on. I mean, he wasn't impressive to me, but I think they like him, and if they're going to open him up to waivers, he might be taken. So there's that to consider as well with that. But yeah, I didn't think he played that great. So he's not really pushing Kareem Jackson. But from what I hear from people at camp, though, Luke Patterson's been out there. He looked pretty good in camp when he started playing. So. We got Derek's coming back in with another super chat. So again, thank you so much for the support. And Derek says, besides kicker, if you guys have to choose one position to add talent and depth to, what would it be? Well, I already said D line so that's mine for sure. D line is one that I think could use some depth. It could use some talent that they brought in. Right now, offensive tackle.
Both lines. I was going to say that.
Offensive tackle is struggling, man. But I don't know who they're going to get. What do you think, Rod?
Yeah, I was going to say both lines. So both offensive line and defensive line, they need to add talent and depth. As we mentioned on the defensive line, it's still a little worrisome about the rotation. It would have been nice to have brought in someone to kind of help solidify that. I was thinking more of a Shelby Harris or Akeem Hicks to kind of help solidify that defensive line. But again, I don't think they're going to do that. Obviously, that's kind of what's looking like now. And then, that rotation, who's going to come in on those rotational sets? Again, what we saw yesterday from some of them, it looked good. But again, we can't bank on that. So definitely defensive line. And on the offensive line, tackle. Tackle screams out to me. I think if we were to narrow it down by position on the offensive line, I'm more concerned about the tackle depth, for sure.
Yeah, but I don't know who they're going to go get. Right?
Yeah.
I just don't know who they're going to go. And I've been talking. I've been talking about Alex Palczewski since they brought him in. An experienced. He was in a big conference, Big Ten, a lot of experience. He looked better than Isaiah Prince, but I mean, even though I like him and I hope he makes the team, I don't know if I would trust that he's the answer either if somebody goes down. So I haven't been impressed with Fleming. I haven't been impressed with Prince. I haven't been impressed with Bowles. McGlinchey is still to be determined because he hasn't really been out there that much. So it's kind of slim pickings with some offensive tackles. But again, like, who are you going to try and talk somebody to come out of retirement? I don't know what you'd even do. So they're kind of stuck with the offensive tackles, unless they make some sort of trade, which I don't see happening either. So they're just kind of stuck with what they have, and they spent a lot of money on the offensive line, and I'm hoping that it turns around. But yeah, that thanks for that question, Derek. Appreciate it. And hopefully they either find those guys that step up, or they go out and get somebody that can come in and help.
Yeah, most definitely.
So we got Ryan Slavic coming in saying, I don't know, you guys, we're going to keep going with the offensive tackle. They're saying, I feel like they should start Cam Fleming over Garrett Bowles as of right now. Not looking good at all. Yeah, well, Fleming hasn't looked good either in camp. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like who do you throw in there that's playing bad out of the two, right? I don't know. Bowles needs to he needs to get it together. But remember this about Bowles. major injury. It was a significant injury. He's coming back from that. He's a little bit rusty. He hasn't been playing a lot. They've been really careful with his snap counts in camp. So let's give him a little bit more time before we get too panicky. But I mean, at this point right now, that season that he had under Munchak that looked really good, where he got the second team All Pro award, it looks like an anomaly compared to all the other seasons he's had. So let's hope that he turns it around. But I was talking with the right tackle Ken Lanier from back in the day, Broncos. Lucky enough to be able to talk with him. He's such a nice guy. But I asked him about injuries, about specifically about McGlinchey's injuries. And it does, these injuries can hamper an offensive tackle for a while. So you have to kind of bear with it a little bit. Let the process happen. Let the healing happen. Let the confidence get back, and we'll see where it is. So,
yeah.
that's
thank
my
you,
thought
Ryan. Yeah, thank you, Ryan. And I'm going to piggyback off. I mean, it's Cam Fleming didn't look much better. I would want to just keep Bowles in there. Again, I'm not trying to give an excuse for Bowles, but he is coming off that injury, and it's going to take time for him to, come back to full form. And I think, he will improve. But, if I had to choose, I'm going to keep Bowles as the starting left tackle for sure.
Yeah. It's worrisome. So we'll see how it goes. I just want to, we're about at the end of the show. I just want to, we were talking about safeties, and I did have a couple notes on Delaren Turner-Yell. He's not super impressive, but I think he took a bad angle on a long third down run, for 13 yards, but he also had a nice open field tackle. So I'd like to see more from him. I'd like to see more from number 32 in the next preseason game to see how he does. I'd like to see them play some of these guys a little bit more that kind of flashed a little, but also he needs a little bit more seasoning. So like Delaren Turner-Yell is one of them that I think needs a little bit more snaps, just so they can be, evaluate him a little bit more. Because if he can step up, right, if he's going to be, they took him in the fourth round, or fourth or fifth round, I can't remember exactly. Maybe it was fifth round. They had some desire to get him in there to play. He's got, they wanted to take a chance on him in those middle rounds. So let's see what he can do. I hope they play him a little bit more.
Yep, good point.
And we got KB82 coming in with a super chat at late coming in with the super chat. Thank you so much. We're glad to see these comments. Let the show go on a little longer, so to speak, because we can answer this question. He says, who on the D line free agency would you kick the tires on? Sue, Brockers, Clowney, Hicks. Yeah, Hicks has been my guy only because of the familiarity with Sean Payton. He's a little bit older. He's getting up there. But the reason why I say that is not just for the familiarity. The person that they lost from some suspension, Wazirike, kind of similar style, right? Bigger, kind of taking up space type of guy. I liked Hicks. I think he's a pretty good athlete for his size. So that's been my guy going on is for a while. I liked him better than bringing back Shelby Harris. I know a lot of people like Shelby Harris, but I was more on the Hicks kind of bandwagon to bring him in. But it's a lot of older people out there, I say older. Old in football years, not older people. So it is slim pickings. Ron, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, KB. Yeah, A2 for coming in. I would say, Hicks or Harris were my two, as far as bringing in.
But Harris signed with the Browns, so he's out.
Oh, Harris is out. Okay.
Yeah, Shelby Harris signed with the Browns a few days ago, so his name is off the list. Okay. There's some names left. Let me just take a quick peek and see what we got out there.
But yeah, Clowney, he has a long injury history. I don't want anything to do with Clowney. Sue wouldn't be bad. I'm just not the biggest Sue fan, but it'd be better than what we have, right?
That's true.
But yeah, I would say out of this list, KB82, it's going to be Hicks. I've been pining for Hicks since the suspension of Wazirike. So
And I mean, I used to like Brockers a lot. I wanted them to try to go out and get him early on from the Rams, but he re-signed with the Rams back
Right.
in the day. And, now I think he's like 34, 35 at this point. I can't
Yeah.
remember his age, but he seems like he might be a little bit long in the tooth. I'm gonna just look right now and see who's available out there right now, and we will talk about it. Oh man, yeah, Brockers, Hicks, yeah,
Slim
Tyson
pickings.
Alulu is out there. Wormley, the names are not.
Mm-mm.
Um, there's not really any young guys with a lot of experience that you would
Yeah.
want to spend too much money on. But yeah, Sue's 36, Alulu's 36. Brockers is 32, younger than I thought. So, maybe he can come in and give them some time in the rotation. I don't know. Wormley is out there, Pittsburgh guy. Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot. I'm not seeing a lot of options. So
A
I'm
lot of good
going with
names.
Hicks just because
Yeah.
that's who I said to begin with. But yeah, not many options. But yeah, thanks for coming in and thank you for the support, KB. Appreciate it very, very much.
Yes.
All
All right.
right. Well, I think we could probably wrap the show up. Ron, what do you think? Got any
Yes.
last minute guys that you want to highlight from your list before we end the show?
Uh, I had Alex Singleton.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he looked good.
he played. Yeah, he was good. That tackle for loss on 3rd and 1 was a really good play.
What I'll tell you about Singleton, my knock on Singleton last year, and he's a tackling machine.
Mhm.
And I said it, I think on this show, he needs to have more impact plays. He's not tackling people way down the field. Don't get me wrong. Like he's making good stops, but more tackles for a loss, more forced fumbles,
Yeah,
more interceptions if he can. And last night he had an impact play. That was a nice tackle for a loss.
it
I
was.
enjoyed watching that very much. So hopefully he's adding that to his repertoire. Maybe get a few more forced fumbles, things like that. So yeah, I like Singleton too. It's gonna be fun to watch that old school smash mouth,
Yes,
type of football for
linebacker
sure.
play. Agreed.
The one person for me is same group. I had higher hopes for, but he looks like a rookie to me. Drew Sanders, athlete for sure. He looks smooth out there. He looks like he can run. He looks like he might be able to do some. Something in coverage, but he did have some misreads a few times. He's
Yeah,
still learning, I think.
yeah,
And I actually think he looks very slight out there. 6'5", 230 pounds. It'd be nice to add a little bit of weight if he's going to play a lot at inside linebacker. So I hope to see more from him next game, more better reads, a little bit more impact than he had on this preseason game. But I like the guy. I think he was going to be a steal of the draft, but so far, not super impressive in this game. Has had some impressive moments though from camp. All right, we got one more coming in from KB before we go. One more super chat. Let's see. It says, were you happy the starters played so long? Ron, what do you think? What's your thoughts on the starters playing as long as they did?
yeah. Thank you, KB, for coming in again. I don't have a problem with it. Um, I think they needed the reps. They needed to, you know, play together. Kind of get their, I guess, hands in this offense, and defense for that matter. So I didn't have a problem with it. We did see some good things, and again, it's Sean Payton wanted to have them play for a set amount of time to evaluate them as well, just to see how they're accommodating to his coaching style and his scheme. So, the more reps, the better. So I didn't have a problem with them playing long at all.
I liked it for a reason, and Emmanuel Acho, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, broke it down. I retweeted it. It was a great thing that he talked about. Russell Wilson made a mistake, right?
Yeah,
He read the coverage wrong earlier, came back and then read it right and completed the pass, and that was because they stayed in a little bit longer. So I was happy with that because they got the execution correct. I wish they would have been going up against more of a first team players against them on the defense than they did when they did get that execution correct. But yeah, I was okay with it. I'm just going to grab Phil McLaughlin before we head out of here, saying he says my winners/losers were McMillan, McLaughlin, and Garcia. Losers are Tremont Smith, Stidham, and Prince. Exactly what I had wrote about it. You hit it right on the head. Great minds think alike. Thank you very, very much, Phil, for coming in. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I there were some others that you could have added in or out in there, but I think those were ones that stood out, for sure. So thanks for coming in, Phil. Really appreciate it. So we're going to wrap up the show now. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate everybody that came in. Go check out milehighhuddle.com. There's a few articles that have come out about the preseason game, winners and losers, execution, takeaways, things like that. Go check it out. We will be coming back next Saturday for a preview. Going to start practicing for that regular season. So the game's on Saturday. We might come in. I don't know, Ron, we might come in at 5:30 so we can actually watch the whole game. We'll see if we can make that happen or not. But if not, we're going to do a preview next week and the week after. So that's going to be going on all season. So if you see something that you liked or see something that we didn't say that you want to hear more about, let us know next week and the week after, because we're going to be coming back. But check out the other shows. And thank you again. And for myself and Ron, have a great rest of your weekend, and stay safe out there.
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.